She now serves as secretary of the Board of Trustees of Unity Worldwide Ministries and is currently serving as a minister at large in Colorado. She completed her master's at Fielding University in Santa Barbara, California in 2012 with a degree in organizational management and development with an emphasis in integral studies. She is the designer of this beautiful harmony necklace pendant, and I'm sure she has some with her if anyone's interested in that. She sells these at various Unity churches and also at www.harmonypendants.com. She is also the creator and author of An Integral Approach to Creating Sustainable Prosperity, which is recommended by Unity Worldwide Ministries on their website, and which she teaches as an adjunct faculty for Unity Worldwide Spiritual Institute. She is an authentic, creative visionary, committed to service and making a difference in the world. And so please join me in welcoming Rev. Doris Hoskins.
I'm going to move this because I'm going to walk, and if that's in front of it, I don't want to be responsible for what might happen. Nothing like coming and just rearranging all the furniture as a guest. You know, could I come to your house? I'd love to help you arrange your furniture. Yeah. So it's lovely to be with you again. I think it was 2 years ago, I think you're right, Ginger, that I spent 5 or 6 weeks with you, a long time anyway, and did a whole series when David was, I don't know if he was on sabbatical or his wife was ill and she was taking care of him. So anyway, thank you for having me back again. I appreciate that opportunity. So I probably terrified the people in charge by not being here early. In fact, I think I walked in at about 10 till, is that correct? And that was a preventable occurrence. See, in my mind's eye, I know where I'm coming, and so I don't need to look at one of these devices that we now have nowadays that tells you how long it takes you to get there. Because in my mind's eye, I knew how long it takes to get there. I was wrong. So I was late, but I am here. And all is well. So I'm curious. What device do you think I should have consulted so that I would have known how long it would take me to get here?
GPS.
Oh, my GPS. Do you think that would have helped? Just maybe. So I'm guessing you all know what a GPS is, right?
I don't have one either.
You know, I have one. I have one, but you know what? They are absolutely useless if you don't use them. More about that later. So, if you aren't using GPS, how might you get here if you didn't know how you were going to come? Oh, a map. A real piece of paper? How archaic. Okay. But we could come here with a map. What else could we use to get here?
Your phone.
Your phone. And when you're on your phone, which apps might you want to use? Google Maps. Okay.
Call a person and ask for directions.
Oh my God, that's another amazing idea. Call a person and ask. Okay, I remember when that worked. Only works though if you have people who can give good directions. So, have you ever heard of Waze?
Yes.
Sure, some of you use Waze. What else might you use?
The Force.
The Force. The man is with me. Okay. So we use, pardon?
It's your faith.
Absolutely. So, do you know what GPS stands for?
Global Positioning Satellite.
Global Positioning System?
I believe, based on my extensive research, that it is Global Positioning System, but it uses a satellite, so you're right. Yeah. So, did you know that you were born with a GPS inside of you? What might that G stand for?
God.
Oh, God. What an amazing word. Okay, God's positioning system. And you're right. You came with one of those, and you can check inside to know what to do and where to go. There's frequently a problem with that. What do you think the problem might be with checking inside to find out where you should go next?
Or ego.
Oh, fear, that's lovely. And your ego, both of those interfere amazingly.
You don't listen to it.
You don't listen to it. Oh my God. That's like having the TV on all day long. You really don't listen to it? Okay, so it could just be white noise.
You don't know where you are.
You don't know where you are. So, God's positioning system. What else might be a problem with you actually choosing to listen to that?
Well, you don't tap into it enough, so you're not really sure if you're getting the right message or not.
Oh, okay. So are you skilled at using God's positioning system? Yep, that's part of it. We'll talk about that later. What else might be a problem with tapping into God's positioning system?
Listening to the world instead of God.
Listening to the world instead of God. And what were you going to say, Chris?
Having a preconceived idea of what your answer is going to be.
Oh, now we're creeping in on where I'm going to take you for a little bit. So in order to trust God's positioning system, what is an absolute requirement?
Surrender.
Surrender is always useful.
Try it out.
Got to try it out.
Listen.
Listen. You have to trust God. And there is a hurdle that many, 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 many people in this world have when we say you have to trust God. What do you think that hurdle might be?
Self.
Ourselves, but part of it is, quote, who and or what we think God is. Because if you have a scary God, I'm guessing some of you might have been raised with a scary God. If you have a scary God, why in the world would you ever trust God?
Faith.
You have faith in a scary God? Boy, have I got to sit down with you for a while. So we have this name, this word, and we use it all the time, particularly in churches. God. But what do we mean when we say God? In the course of this morning service, I've heard you use the word Lord. I've heard you say Mother, Father, God. Where's your song sheets you were singing from?
Right behind you.
Right behind me. Oh, perfect. You want me to actually look on the...
Spirit.
Out of his mouth came fire and smoke.
Dragon. Friendly guy.
So is that a God that you want to trust? Think of the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. I'm judging you. You're a sinner. You're wrong. There is absolutely nothing in that image of God that inspires me to trust that God. Nothing whatsoever. Now, you're all good Unity folks. You show up here, you know that what holds you back is fear. But the real question becomes, how much of all of that stuff about God do you still have inside of you? So when I tell you to trust God, your head says, oh yes, I should trust God. But your body says, no bleeping way. Am I gonna trust this person who's spewing out, can't remember those exciting words, fire and smoke? Why would I follow something that is turning around to go at me and breathe out fire and smoke? So you see, the words we use in unity are absolutely, positively useless if the image you all have in your hearts, you know, your heart, that part of you that was formed in your childhood by your mom, your dad, your minister, your priest, if that part of you is going, I'm not trusting that. So we have to recreate a different way of looking at God before we can even begin to trust God. So do you have a guy on a throne in the sky surrounded by archangels and angels and trumpets and streets of gold? If you've got that God, folks, it's hard. It's really, really hard to actually step into the position of trusting and following God's voice. So, do you remember Garmin's?
Mm-hmm.
Some of us had a Garmin about 20 years ago, I think. It was a long time ago. It was sort of, oh, she's telling on you now. Oh, you're telling on you, okay. So, if you had a Garmin and you turned the wrong way, what did it tell you?
Recalculating.
That's it. So see, if we get it into our heads and into our hearts and into our bodies that it's okay if we make a mistake, because what is God going to say?
Recalculate.
Oh no, I made another mistake. Another mistake. See, if we are free from fear, if we are free from this judgmental, angry, fire-spitting God, and we can trust the guidance that we were born with. You don't have to go to this, store and buy it. You don't have to order it from Amazon. You were innately designed with this inside of you. But we forget. These sweet little girls, they got it, man. But we've had a few experiences on the way that cause us to doubt, that cause us to have fear, that cause us not to trust. So, we're the ones who have to reprogram ourselves. Now, I have a 2014 Toyota Prius. I can't use the GPS system in that Prius anymore. Why?
Because the maps are from 2014.
Ah, boy, I'm glad you're here this morning. I don't know if they would have known that. Okay. Because the maps are from 2014 and things have changed. New roads have been built, bypasses have been created, streets have been made one way. I can't use that anymore. So we have to reprogram ourselves. Our hardware is in perfect shape, almost. When we get older, not quite so perfect, but essentially our hardware is in perfect shape. However, when our interior software is out of date, we have a harder time. So back in the early 2000s, my family was at Emerald Isle, North Carolina. We've gone to the beach there for many years, and we were gathering because my younger daughter was going to get engaged, and it was a big deal, and we were all going to be together. And when that week was over, we were driving back. At that time, I lived in Cincinnati, and we were driving back to Cincinnati. So we had that programmed into our Garmin GPS, and we're driving along in Virginia, and my son sees a sign for Williamsburg. And he said, I've never been to Williamsburg. I said, you want to go to Williamsburg? He said, yes, let's go to Williamsburg. So he reprogrammed the GPS to go to Williamsburg, and the very next exit, the GPS said, get off. I'm in the middle of rural Virginia, and it tells me to get off. Am I going to trust my GPS? That's my business, trust. So I'm in the business of trusting my GPS, my internal guidance system, and I'm decided I'm going to trust the external one. So we get off, and we're driving along, and the road gets narrower and narrower. If you've ever been on a country road in the east, what you may know is that it's about as wide as the driveway. Usually has a crown in the middle. If you meet someone, you got to get off to the side, or you would run into each other. And you can't see because there are trees all over the place, unlike out here. So we're driving along, we're passing cows, we're passing cornfields, we're passing wheat fields. And the road gets narrower, and the road gets narrower, and I think we're going to end up in someone's driveway. But what am I going to do? Am I going to keep following what the GPS said? It hasn't recalculated once. Okay, so Jeff and I are good for adventure. We figure, what the heck, we can always tell it to go home later. And as the road got really, really narrow, it took us down to the river. What do you think was at the river right there?
Ferry boat.
A ferry boat. You are absolutely right. And guess where the ferry boat took us? Right straight across the river to Williamsburg.
Oh, that's cool.
It was a real shortcut that, trust me, I never would have found. But from that moment on, I had no problem whatsoever trusting my own guidance system, trusting my Garmin, trusting GPSs. Now I have found sometimes they take us the long way around, but they always get us there, or they take us the short way that we would never have guessed, and we learn something new. I was with my daughter in Ohio, and she wanted to go to Home Depot, and I'd always gone to this one Home Depot, and you have to understand, Cincinnati's built on 7 hills, and they were separate towns, and the streets don't connect. So learning to drive in Cincinnati when you're a new person is a bit of a challenge. And I'd always gone to the same, and she said, let's see what the GPS says. Okay. And she said, when we got to the bottom of the street, she said, turn left. Well, you can't get to, she was trying to show me how wonderful GPS was. You can't get there by turning left. She said, mother, in that wonderful tone that only daughters have for their mothers. And she said, can we just try it? I said, all right, fine. So we turned left, drove along the Ohio River, turned right, crossed a bridge into northern Kentucky, and at the foot of the bridge there was a Home Depot. Now, I had never thought about going to Kentucky to go to Home Depot. But it was much closer than the Home Depot that I'd gone to forever. So GPSs work that way too. So it can aid you. It can serve you if you're willing to trust it. What's the worst thing that could happen if you follow your GPS? Recalculate. They don't say that anymore, but they do it. They just don't talk about it.
The battery on your phone goes dead.
That could be a problem. But what's the worst thing if I go the wrong way?
Fall off the edge of the earth.
Are you a member of the Flat Earth Society? Come on now.
I hear they're global now.
Global flat.
They can't go around the world if it's flat, can it? So if we follow it and it's wrong, we can choose again. If you don't like the metaphor of GPS, think about playing golf. Everybody leaves from the first hole. They're either going to play 9 holes or 18 holes. They're going to hit it, and there is a path straight down the fairway. That's the most efficient way to play golf. In my observation, even the professionals don't always do that. And if you're not a professional and you're playing golf, you could be in the woods, you can be in the sand trap, you could be in the water. You can do a hole, par 3 means it takes 3 strokes, right? So it can take you 3 strokes. You could get a hole in one. It could take you 15 strokes. But you're still going to end up at the pin. So if we make a mistake, if we turn the wrong way, we're still going to end up where we're headed. We can't fail. Now, back to God for a minute. If we're going to release that image of God, Mother, Father, Lord, infinite being, pick one. The universe. It doesn't matter what we call this, as long as inside of ourselves, it's like that picture in the back of the room. Everybody turn around, look up over the name tags. See that energetic light inside of that guy? That's where God is. God is present in your energy. You can't go any place and not take that with you because you're alive. If the energy's gone, that's when they carry us out in the box. So we have that within us. And if we know it's the energy of the universe within us that guides us always, and if we know we can't make a mistake that is irreconcilable, because all that happens is we're adjusting and going a different way, do you see how your life is absolutely magnificently different? You've all heard the cliche, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? That doesn't relate to most of us very well because we think of the times we failed, we think of the problems we've had, we think of what we've created, and we can make some amazing messes as human beings in this world. And yet none of those messes are without rectification. We can change our mind, we can forgive, we can be empowered, we can feel our own strength, we can believe in the healing power of prayer. Prayer doesn't work because we folded our hands and knelt by the side of a bed. It's our energy connecting with the energy of other people, either that we're holding in consciousness or that need our consciousness. All of that is energy. Energy that never stops, never fails, is always present. And as long as you aren't held back by your concept of God, you have a much easier time trusting, okay, I turned left, I should have turned right. I just got back from Florida late last night, kind of. And in Florida, you are encouraged to take endless U-turns. I find it a little annoying. Seems like you ought to be able to cope with life besides make a U-turn and go back so you can turn in, but they have divided highways all over the place and blah, blah, blah. If I know that the worst thing that's going to happen to me is I have to make a U-turn, let's say I walked all the way down this path and it was the wrong one. The worst thing that's going to happen to me is I have to make a U-turn. I have to choose differently. So when we apply this message to ourselves, some of us can get it and feel a little grace in the little space. Now, humor me by applying it to the members of your family that are a challenge. They could be your children, they could be your parents, they could be your siblings. I know you all have one. I've got some. If they're on the wrong path and you have nagged them to death and it hasn't done a single good thing for you, you can simply hold energetically that they will make a U-turn. That's a very different proposition than continuing to nag, folks. It's a very different proposition than telling them all the ways they're wrong, all the ways they should have done it differently. So do you see how forgiveness becomes different when you understand energy? Loving someone who feels absolutely unlovable is easier when you realize that the energy within me, the divine within me, connects with the divine within you, and at that place, all is well. At that place, it's easy to forgive. At that place, it's easy to heal. But you have to reprogram your software system. You have to reprogram your GPS. It's a very valuable tool. It's present within you. You can turn to it through the energy of your mind. You can turn to it through the energy of your heart. Both of those are ways we talk about a lot in Unity. But you can turn to it through the energy of your body. Rhythmic work. The very first time I ever finally learned to meditate, back in the late 80s in Fayetteville, Arkansas, which is where I lived at the time, was when I was sweeping leaves off the walk around my house in the fall. I was outside, it was a beautiful fall day, I wasn't focused on anything, I was sweeping. Some guys do it when they mow the lawn. Back and forth. It empties your mind. You're working, but it doesn't require mental concentration. It puts you in the energy of your body. Consider that if you haven't been able to connect, that you need to try one of the other paths. And if you're really good at connecting through the heart, which doesn't mean puppies in pink hearts, through the energy of the heart, you may be good at thinking about it and knowing what the truth is. But if none of those have worked for you, consider that your energetic guidepost could be your body. You know, people run, people jog on treadmills, people hike in the mountains. What's your way to connect? Through the body is more frequently a path for men, but it's not limited to men. So finding your path and your way to connect is critical. Excuse me. So I want to give you two little things before I close. No. I'm supposed to clue them. So it's not quite the clue, but we're moving in that direction. So read this. I like it. Good job. We could do well together. So come to the edge, he said. They said, we're afraid. Come to the edge, he said. They came, he pushed them, and they flew. But it requires that you move. Now, a Psalms that works for me when I readjust my view of God, which is Psalms 143, verse 8. Let me hear in the morning of thy steadfast love, for in thee I put my trust. Teach me the way I should go, for to thee I lift up my soul. Do you hear all the words that is going to this God? Now, if we change them to this God within us, Doris's version. Let me hear in the morning of my steadfast love for myself. For in my divine self, not my egoic self, in my divine self, I put my trust. I learn to listen to my divine self for the way I should go. For it is to my divine self, my soul, that I am lifted up. An affirmation for you. I find and follow the guiding light within me. I find and follow the guiding light within me. You are not required to follow my guiding light. It would be impossible. But you are required to find and follow the guiding light within you. I find and follow the guiding light within me. Together, I find and follow the guiding light within me. One more time. I find and follow the guiding light within me. So I invite you to just take a deep breath. Feel that you're supported by the chair. It requires no work except a spine to sit on a chair. You are supported by the chair. You can put your feet flat on the floor. Feel the energy of the universe of Mother Earth flowing up through your feet. You may open your hands and invite the energy of the universe to touch you. And when you open yourselves to the energy of the universe, we usually feel it within our bodies. We know when we have touched that energy. We know when we are in connection, with the energy of the universe. Jesus said, when two or more are joined together, there I am in the midst of them. The energy and the mystery and the awesomeness of the divine is present within us. And when we allow ourselves to come together with those that we are in community with, we can allow our energy to connect. We feel it. We feel it in our bodies. We feel it in our hearts. Frequently our minds move to a place of peace. When we say the presence of God is always with us, it's not an external added on thing. It is the life energy within us, manifesting as us, connecting with the life energy manifesting in each of those around us. When we hold each other in prayer, we are sending our energy, that divine life force within us, to the person that we are holding in prayer, to the situation we are holding in prayer. We are the hands, the feet, the eyes, the mouth of the divine. How we speak, how we act, how we think can be a reflection of the divinity within us. It can be a path to creating a loving world where we hold those we love and those we have yet to learn to love in the divine energy of love. When we recognize we are simply energetic beings that in this moment have acquired an earth suit that surrounds our divine energy, we are reminded of all the things that we can do, of all the ways that together we can change the world. Not by might, not by strength, but by thy Spirit, the Spirit of the divine within us. We breathe into that. It feels too awesome to some of us that I could possibly contribute to making a difference in this world. And yet each of us together can do it. And in fact, it's the only way anything has ever changed in this world. When we come together and combine our energy, our intelligence, our wisdom, our strength, our courage, our love, we become a mighty force. So in this moment, we just take another breath, because sometimes it feels like such a big job. But we remember that we are superheroes, not our egoic self, but our divine self. So breathing in again, we pause together to collectively join with the energy of the universe. Jesus said, I have come that they might have life and have it more abundantly. Each of us in this room woke up this morning. We are abundantly filled with the life force of the universe. And we come together to create the world that we want to live in. And so it is, and so we let it be. Amen. Please join in singing Alleluia.